Check it.
Okay, welcome back. Today we're going to be solving inequalities with radicals instead of just equations. So with the equations, what we had to do was get the radical by itself. Then after that, we would take a power of both sides to get rid of the radical. But then when we were done, we had to check our answer to make sure that it wasn't a bogus answer. Now, you can check the answer after you're done, or you can check the domain of the square root or the root first to make sure that you're not violating the domain. So there's two ways you could have done that. The easier way is just plug in your answer after you're done. However, with inequalities, you don't get one answer. You get answers like x is greater than or equal to 10, which means that your answer, your x, is 10, 11, 12, 13, 3 billion, 3 gazillion, right? And what about every decimal in between? So 10, 10.1, 10.2, 10.21. You get the idea. 10.20375, 10.20376. So there's an infinite number of solutions when you do an inequality. So how are you supposed to plug that in and check your answer? You can't, because there's an infinite number of answers, and you will spend all of eternity literally trying to check your answers. So you can't do that. So what we'll do in this case is the checking of the domain. All right. So we will solve our inequality, but we will also check the domain to make sure that the domain is not going to restrict your answer. So here we go. All right. Like we do with every other square root function, when we do the graph, we used to check the domain. So we're going to do that right now. How do you find the domain of a square root? You take the inside, the 3x plus 9 here, right? The argument of the square root, this right here, the radicand, and you set it greater than or equal to 0, and you see what you get. So for this, we have 3x plus 9 equals greater than or equal to 0. We're going to subtract 9 from both sides, and we're going to divide both sides by positive 3. And we get that. Okay? So our domain is saying whatever answer we get later, it better be greater than negative 3 or equal to negative 3. Okay? So now let's actually solve the inequality. And you solve it the same way you solve an equation. You get the radical by itself. You take the power on both sides. That part has not changed. So here we go. So getting the radical by itself, we need to add 2 to both sides. And then this is a power of 1/2 right here. Okay. So you could write the step out where you go like this, and you write this as a power of 1/2. All right. Or you can just, and then what do you have to do? You have to take the power of the reciprocal of this. The multiplicative inverse of 1/2 is 2 over 1. I'm just going to write 2 instead of 2 over 1. And you can see this 2 cancels out the 1/2. And you get 3x plus 9 on this side, and this becomes an 81. All right, last couple steps. You subtract 9 from both sides. You get 3x is less than 72. You divide both sides by 3, positive 3, and you get x is less than 24. Now, that's your solution. X is less than 24 is your solution. But here's the thing. Let's do a number line here. And yes, you need to do a number line for every one of these questions. If you were just looking at the answer, then here's 24, let's say. Open circle because it's not underlined. Shade to the left. Your answers are all the numbers less than 24, including 0, negative 24, negative 2 million, negative 2 billion, negative 2 trillion, that sort of thing, right? Every number to negative infinity and beyond. So you'd think, okay, I'm done. But wait, the domain here says you can't go any lower than x is negative 3, because if you do, you're violating the domain. You're going to be square rooting negatives at that point, and you're going to be creating a problem. So your domain, I'll do a domain in green here. The domain is at negative 3 here, saying you can be equal to negative 3 or greater, like that. So you have to combine these two things into a solution. Okay? The green thing is not the answer, so we're not shading to the right at all. All we're saying is it's only legal or only possible to exist in this green zone. So the part of your answer that goes outside of the green zone is invalid. All right? So let me start this number line over again. Here's how you should handle this. You make your number line. You put down your higher number on the right, your lower number on the left. Okay? And for your solution, you take a look. You say, all right, this is going to be an open circle, and it's going to be going to the left, like that. But I'm not going to shade it yet. For my domain, however, I'm going to be going closed circle, actually, because it's greater than or equal to. Closed circle going to the right. And you can see that when your answer goes down, you know, the real answer goes down to here, it's going to stop because it can't go beyond the green. So it's basically everything in between here. All right? So this should actually be blue here. And you're going to stop here. That's where you're going to stop. So your answer is all of the x's that are in between -3 and -24, like that. All right? Sorry, positive 24. So all the x's, now since you're going from low to middle to high, you should use less thans for all these, less than, less than. This is a closed circle, so less than equal to, and this is an open circle, so just less than, and that's your answer. -3 is less than or equal to x is less than 24. Okay? So just to recap, find the domain, solve the inequality the usual way. When you get your answer, however, you need to combine this answer with this inequality and create a number line, and then use that number line to write your answer. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, so what's the domain right here? Well, the domain we'll get by setting the inside here 2y plus 5 greater than or equal to 0, as we do for the domain, right? And we'll subtract 5 from both sides, and we'll get 2y is greater than or equal to -5. We'll divide both sides by 2, and we'll get y is greater than or equal to -5 over 2. Okay, there's your domain, also known as -2.5 right there. So we'll put that aside. You know, we'll come back to it later. Now let's solve the actual inequality here. We're going to subtract 3 from both sides. We're going to realize this is a power of 1/2 right here, right? Second root. So we can kind of skip that writing step and just say, all right, we're going to square both sides, because that would be, this is a 1/2 power, and that 2 would cancel out the 1/2, right? So we'll take the square of both sides to get rid of the square root here. And we get this. And this side becomes a 9. Continuing. We'll subtract 5 from both sides. And we'll divide both sides by +2. And we get y is less than or equal to 2. You notice I said dividing by +2. The reason being is when you're dividing an inequality by a negative, you're debanning, and you have to flip the inequality. So be careful about deban, right? When you divide both sides of an inequality by a negative, you have to flip the inequality from less than to greater than, or vice versa. All right, we learned that earlier in the year. Okay, so let's do our number line now. Okay, our real answer. Okay, first of all, what's higher, what's lower? 2 is higher than -5/2, so we'll put the 2 on the right, then -5/2 on the left. So this is actually -2.5 in decimal. And we're going to be going to less than, so to the left and closed circle. So your answer is going to be closed circle to the left. Now, if we didn't have the domain to worry about, we would just go all the way down to infinity. But we do have to worry about the domain. So I'm just going to say, all right, let's just temporarily do that. Now, your domain is saying that you have to put a closed circle, and I'll do it in green, even though I know you're not going to use colored pencils, but just so you can see the difference. That's the domain now. It's everything starting at negative 2.5 and going to the right. So that's everything going this way. So it's where these two things overlap that your answer lives, which is, you can see it's overlapping in the middle between, these 2 points here. So taking away the green domain now and just writing the answer. The answer is everything between this closed circle, because this is a closed circle, and this closed circle, and everything in between, like that. And the way you write your answer is as a 3-part inequality. So basically this is y, not x. So y is everything in between this number and this number. So all you do is put some less thans there. They are both closed circles, so you're going to underline them both. And that is your answer right there. Okay, one more. So we start off by looking for the domain of this right here. So domain. And we're going to set that greater than or equal to 0. Now, we're going to subtract, we need to get the z by itself, so subtract a from both sides. And we need to divide by -4 on both sides. So what did I just do? I just divided by a -4. I divided both sides of an inequality by a negative. I divide by a negative means I need to flip this inequality. So yes, these do cancel out, and the answer is going to be z not greater than or equal to, it's going to be less than or equal to. That's what d-ban is. And -8 divided by -4 is +2. So there's my domain right there. And I will come back to this a little bit later. Okay, let's now focus on solving the inequality. So let's write down the inequality. And we need to get rid of this 2 here, so we'll add 2 to both sides. Now we have the radical greater than or equal to 10. Now this radical here, this is a second root. So this is the same as 8 minus 4z to the power of. It's a second root, so the bottom of the fraction is a 2, right? That's where the root is in the bottom, like a tree. The root of a tree is in the bottom, and the root of a fraction power is in the bottom. The top doesn't have a power, so just 1, okay? And you have this. How do you get rid of that 1/2 power? You square both sides. Because 2 over 1 cancels out 1 over 2. It's the multiplicative inverse. So this 2 cancels out there. We have to square this side as well. Now, could I have just squared both sides up here? Yeah. I mean, you can do that. I'm just showing you all of the steps here. Okay, but if you get comfortable enough, I wouldn't advise you to skip other kinds of roots, but square roots, I think they're simple enough that you're just squaring both sides. Okay, so what do we get? Well, we have 8 minus 4z on this side now. That's all that's left. And this side is greater than 100, because 10 squared is 100. And now let's get the z by itself. Let's subtract 8 from both sides. This is 92. Let me just bring that over here so I can continue. And now I need to divide both sides by -4. I'm dividing an inequality by a negative. That's d-ban yet again. So these cancel out, and this becomes z is not greater than like it used to be. Now it becomes less than or equal to instead of greater than or equal to. And 92 divided by 4 is 23. And this is negative, so negative 23. Okay, so this is our solution right here. What I need to do is make my number line to decide if my domain contradicts my solution at all. So my solution is Well, first of all, where's the domain? Okay, we have 2 and we have negative 23. Put the bigger number on the right, the smaller number on the left. The bigger number is 2, because 2 is bigger than negative 23. And negative 23 will be on the left here, because it's the lower number. Okay, so the answer says we're less than or equal to negative 23. So close circle, shading to the left. The domain says that we have to make sure that we stay under positive 2. So the domain is saying open circle going this way. Now you can see the domain is not interfering with the original answer. The original answer starts at negative 23 and goes to the left. That's fine. That's all in the green zone, so we're good. And we don't have to worry about the domain in the answer. We can just box this thing here. So our answer is actually just this thing here, because the domain is not stopping it. Now, if you were going in the other direction, let's say you were shading to the right instead, then you'd realize, oh, I have to stop at 2 because the domain is stopping me from going outside of the green zone. But in this case, the answer is completely in the green zone, all right? I just don't want you to make the mistake of thinking that the domain is part of the answer. So don't shade. Some people will think, oh, okay, well, I have to also do the domain on the number line, and they'll do this, and they'll make that part of the answer, and that's not part of the answer. The domain is just telling you where you can be, right? That's why I did it in green. It's just telling you what's legal. So if, it's an open circle, or actually it's a closed circle, shading to the left, right? That means, there you go, but you're not actually shading it. You're just saying, all right, I can be anywhere from here on down, and that's where my answer can be. Well, it's already, our answer is in that zone already, so this is fine. Okay, there's no need to check your answers beyond this with inequalities. Like I said, you have an infinite number of answers, an infinite number of numbers that are less than negative 23, so there's no way to plug them all in, so this is how we do it. All right, we are done. I'll see you at the next video.